The mountains do not shout, but they remember. In the early morning quiet, when the wind whispers through pine branches and prayer flags flutter in the pale light, the lives of those who live closest to the sky begin with silence, endurance, and unspoken strength. This is the story of Dorje, a Sherpa whose footsteps trace the thin line between survival and sacrifice. A quiet journey through a life that is praised by outsiders but misunderstood in truth. Dorje was born in a village where roads did not reach, where the only transport was the rhythm of feet and the memory of trails. His mother wove warmth into the fabric of their home, using yak wool and firewood, and his father rose before dawn each day to carry loads that city men could not lift. Not because he was stronger, but because he had no other choice. Even as a boy, Dorje knew the difference between the truth and the stories told to tourists. They said, Sherpas are heroes, born for altitude. But Dorje knew better. Sherpas were not born for this. They adapted, they endured, not because of destiny, but because no one else would take the risk for such little pay. By 12, he had memorized the trails. By 14, he had carried loads heavier than himself. By 16, he had buried a cousin beneath a wall of snow. And by 18, he had learned to smile through frostbite, to guide men richer than kings, and to thank them when they gave him second-hand jackets as tips. Every step upward was paid in quiet sacrifice. When foreign climbers cheered on the summit, Dorje stood behind the camera, oxygen-deprived, exhausted. Their names would be remembered, his would not. They returned to celebrations. He returned to carry again. The money was just enough to build a house with a metal roof, enough to send his younger sister to school in the city, but not enough to buy time or health or dreams. Sherpas were called legends, yet paid like laborers. They were admired, yet expendable. Dorje's friend Mingma once joked, "We carry gods to the sky, and if we die, they call it bad weather." Mingma died a year later, an avalanche near Camp 3. No plaque, no headline, just another quiet burial under white silence. At night, Dorje sometimes lay awake, listening to the wind wrap around the house like a forgotten prayer. He thought about other jobs, a teacher, a cook, a driver. But none of those could replace what climbing paid. Not in money, but in responsibility. He was the oldest son. He carried more than just packs. He carried everyone. He began to write small notes in a book. Things he saw, things he felt, and things he wished someone had asked. He never showed them to anyone. They were written in the cold between his fingers and the silence between his words. "I'm not brave," one line read. "I'm just out of choices." More and more climbers came. They brought cameras and flags and dreams of standing above the world. Dorje guided them all. He smiled in photos. He laughed at their jokes. He fixed their ropes. He boiled their tea. He listened to them talk about adventure while wondering if he'd live to see another spring. No insurance, no security, just faith in the mountain and the knowledge that the mountain owed him nothing.